What's up, guys? It's Daedric. So, this video will absolutely be about who is some of the cheapest characters in Tekken. Hold on. So basically, I was just recording for about 20 minutes, going through the character select screen, and I was like, why don't I just make a tier list of who is the cheapest? And I just want to say that if I talk about your character, and it really doesn't matter. I don't care who you play. Just play whoever you want. I'm here to talk shit and have some fun, alright? Number one. This is a close one. I don't know. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. First thing I want to talk about Kuni. Her strings are ridiculous. Unbelievably annoying. Backdash doesn't make sense. And let's say I'm playing Heihachi, right? And I have like some plus frames, whatever. She backdashes once, and it's like no other character. It really doesn't make sense, the movement on this character. And usually, you know, if a character has good movement, like Lily or like whatever, good side sub, then that's something you watch out for. But if they are backdashing things that people usually can't backdash, then I feel like that is pretty damn cheap. Pretty damn cheap. Down forward 2, cheap as hell. Full crouch mix up, pretty damn cheap. It reminds me a lot of Julia, but hers is stupid long range. I feel like even longer range than Julia's. I feel like I get hit by across the map from that full crouch sweep. It is so cheap. Her stance mix-ups, I really don't understand it. Strings. That flying, like mid-check, like the kunai. The counter hit launcher is what I'm talking about. I literally cannot hit her out of it. I feel like I can't sidestep it. Yeah, just I hate that move. The mix-up is absurd. Super safe for some reason, and can always backdash a mile away with one backdash. So, I mean, you don't need a backdash. You don't need a like Korean backdash. You don't need it. Just backdash once. You're out of your opponent's pressure. Doesn't matter. I think she's absolutely the cheapest character. All right, we talk about Asuka now. Asuka. Back 3, can. I mean, so she is, you know, she is a very defensive. I'm just gonna change the song real quick. She's a very defensive character, you know. I feel like if you're trying to pressure at all, you know, if you're not plus, like let's say you down forward 1 and then you do another down forward 1, you're gonna get blasted by something. I feel like that side step 2 is mad cheap. That back 3 just doesn't even make sense. The crushing on that, it crushes highs, right, and it crushes lows as well. To a lot of characters, you just can't punish it. Especially, so it gives you 19 frames to do a forward 2 input, and usually that is about 17 frames. 16 frames. But if you miss it, you just get blasted, and if you don't know the matchup, then she gets away with it. She gets away with murder, honestly. That back 3. And if they space it correctly and they make you whiff, then it just sets up like a forward 2 where she launches you. She just has unbelievable setups and unlimited setups. And her neutral is just kind of wonky. I really never liked her neutral. Counter hit launcher. Launchers are not bad. You never really just want to run into her and press buttons. Just stay away from all that back 3 stuff. and the can. And the can should not hit people that are neutral garden. I think that is whack. Mm, 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 mm. 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 Right next to Fang. Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Xiaoyu. AOP. AOP is just an infinitely better move if you are like let's say I'm playing at a high level of Xiaoyu. I know how to hit her out of it, and then if she does AOP, right, if she doesn't press any buttons, then sometimes it would whiff, and then I would just get hop kicked, and I'll be confused as hell, you know? I use the right button, I just get smoked. And trying to counter hit this character is basically trying to counter hit like a little ant on the ground or like a little cockroach. You know, you can't hit her. Impossible to hit. Impossible to counter hit. Back one. Why is it 8 frames? Oh man, her back turn mix up, right? So let's say she's low HP, right? And she has like the back turned rage drive, right? It's a low and to a high, and I don't think it's very punishable either. I think it's safe. You have to low parry it. But her mix up right there is just so stupid, doing either back turn 4, and you can force this like let's say you knock them down somehow, some way, and then they wake up in your back turn, and then you just get a free mix up, and you know it's just a launcher at that point. You know, we have a safe low launcher, and then we have the minus 15 mid launcher. But just AOP, it's hard to hit her out of it. You have to really like go into practice and see what buttons actually hit her out of it. And you know, Xiaoyu players are very, very how do I put this? They really know Xiaoyu and how not to get hit with it. You just have to find out how to hit them when they're AOPing, when they're doing like their safe orbital or whatever. You know, a very tough character to beat, honestly. Very cheap. And now I can talk about... Actually, no, I'm not even going to talk about them. They're not cheap. He's pretty cheap. Leo is so cheap. I'll organize it after. I just want to put some characters. The king of cheese right here. The queen of cheese, sorry. Katarina's full crouch low doesn't make sense. Minus 13, can't punish it. Can't twin fist it as Kalia. I don't know why this pushback. Hits from a mile away. Yeah, it's bullshit. 4-4-4-4. A lot of people don't know how to counter it, and then can also go into Harrier stance, I think it's called. And a lot of people are going to eat the high, you know, get counter hit by the high. Just a very, very annoying character, very cheap. Probably not as cheap as like a Lucky Chloe, because if you don't know how to play against Lucky Chloe, then you're just gonna get backswing blowed and or what's it called, Cali roll. If you get hit by that, then it's just like 1 million damage, over 50% without wall, probably over 60%. The damage is absurd. Incredibly cheap poking that people don't know how to counter. Down forward 1 into a low. especially for like low level, just like super strong poking, especially if you don't understand how to low parry or when to low parry her. The spin kicks, I don't even know how to punish it. I don't understand it. Pretty cheap character, but still not like these three. Still not even close. I feel like we can't hit these two, right? Just you can never hit these two. And then Kuni is just hella cheap. Let's go Master Raven up there. I mean, Marduk is pretty high up there, but I won't put him in S tier. I think it would be more fair. Do something like that. These characters suck. Are they cheap though? I'm still gonna talk about all these characters. Right, Safina. A lot of people do not like playing against Safina, and it's totally understandable that backdash is just like Kuni's, but the crushing is not as absurd as like these two. Down 3, you can like down forward to it. There's so many mids that hit her out of it. It's not like Zhao, you go into AOP and you just can't connect anything with her. Back 1+2 her little like claw low. That you just have to block it. You have to block it because you can't counter hit her out of it. It's such a weird low. The frames are absurd. Yeah, the frames don't really make sense when you do like 4-4-3 into Scarecrow into that like slam down mid. I think it is 1+2. A lot of people don't know how to counter it. Super cheap down forward too as well with the movement. Super cheap. Yeah. Super absurd frames. Not too bad. Not as terrible as these. Katarina, I already talked about her. That low is so stupid. The hop kick is just, why does it have that much range? Jab strings are incredibly cheap, and one of them is plus. Yeah, she's not too terrible. Just annoying. Master Raven. So, it really depends on the character you are using. So let's say, okay, I can actually use these two characters as an example. So Kazuya right here. What do you have to hit her out of her dashing in your face, right? You do down forward 3, which is super easily sidesteppable, which is just not a good option. Or you do down forward 2, which is -12. There's just, with this character against this character, it just sucks, right? You're gonna have to be eating those mix-ups, and it's really hard to sidestep. I don't even know if you can sidestep them. Just a lot of crushing. Just very annoying. Especially characters that depend on highs, right? Especially Kazuya. His mids are slow and launching, but very slow. 20 frames. Usually forward 3, it's 22 frames. Forward 4, not very good. Down forward 2 is 15. Back 2 is whack. Yeah, just sucks. Now I'm going to talk about Heihachi against this. If I notice that they keep on dashing in my face, I will just spam forward 3 because it's -2. They're going to keep on dashing, and let's say I do forward 3 and then they dash into me and they try to do a mix-up on me. Then they get blasted by a forward 3, and if it's counter hit, then then nice. And if it's not, then I get a forward forward 2. But you can definitely tell the difference between these two characters facing this character, who's just really relies off you respecting her. Change this on real quick. Leia. Oh man. So when I was playing Kazuya, I was getting him to TGP, and I ended up ranking off of a Leia. This Leia was not really doing too many hell sweeps, but the mids are just too absurd. Let's see what kind of mids. That down forward 2 does not make sense, right? Minus 13. It is like a hop kick, right? So it's not like super ridiculous, but I just hate that move. Hate that move. The range, it's hard to punish it at times. The range is just super long range, and then if it's like a counter hit, then you can just get scooped up from like across the map. The mid strings, the counter hits are just absurd, and the lows. I think it's like it's probably like down 1+2. It's a minus 12 move. I think it's reactable, but that low with the counter hit launch is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. I hate he does have like a, he or she or whatever it is. I will say that the full crouch like sweep isn't that bad. Hop kick kind of sucks. Strings are super good though. Pretty cheesy, but plays Tekken 7 very well. You don't really need to backdash and down forward 2. You can just kind of, let's say I do forward 4, you do 1 backdash, you hit down forward 2, and it's super hard to like hit it out of it. Or like a forward 3 is a better example. Marduk. Where do I start? Just the Oki. Let's talk about the Oki. So if they do the right combos, right, they can either get massive damage or they can leave you in a situation where you are face up, back towards the ground, and legs away. So you're just like, he's above you, you know, and he finna down forward 1, you know. Just unbelievably cheap Oki. And if he gets you to the wall, you know, what is the, you know, let's say he scoops you up, you know how he like tosses you in the air. Jesus Christ, unbelievably cheap damage. And you can get, let's say you're in rage, right? And you bring him over to the wall. You get your little wall combo. You scoop him, you throw him, and you rage drive them. You're looking at like 80%. I think that kind of explains for itself on how cheap it is. I just noticed that all of these are women up here. Who is a cheap male character? No. Pretty cheap. That makes sense. So I'm gonna go everywhere. Not really in order, but just explain why I think a character is cheap or not. Lay's Razor Rush is not cheap. The mix-ups, just even if you understand how to play against the character, just like when he's in stance, you're just like, oh god, dude, take a guess, you know. And his lows have so much reach. He can dash into your face and just it matters what stance he's in, obviously, but he can do like the low into the high, which you can punish, and you can also scoop you up with like a down, I think it's down forward 2 out of stance. He just has so many options, right? Extremely cheap characters, well, extremely cheap mix-up, I should say. Oh, well, actually, the hop kick is pretty cheap, and then his sweep is also pretty damn cheap. So 50-50 is pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Yeah. I'd actually put... No Kitaro Fang. The most absurd frames in the game, I think. Even above Heihachi. I don't understand the down forward one, you know. It is slower, right? It is 14 frames. But if you get hit by it, then he gets a free mix up, you know, you roll back. Well, you don't roll back, but you get hit by it. You drop on your back and then you get up, and then he could do side step 4. He just has a lot of options and a lot of mix up utility, and when he's in your face, he has some of the cheapest poking in the game. +1, I think I'll back 1 now. And if you're minus, you could back 1. And if it's not frame tight, then you're gonna blast someone for 40. I don't remember the damage, but it is a pretty high damage. Cheap mix up. I actually think maybe you should go NS, but probably in front of Leo. Yeah, the frames are absurd. Down 3, the counter hit, like flip over thing, is insane. Down 2, hits from a mile away. It's reactable, but if you're not playing in super high level, like top 1%, then no one's gonna react to it. Super cheap low. The 1+2 low is also cheap as hell. Why does it launch? The headbutt, +4, +3 or 4, if I remember correctly. Insane move, great mids, some of the best lows in the game. Super long range, versatile. Up forward 2, invincible, I feel like. Super hard to even counter hit him out of it. I'm going to... Okay, Horing is not that cheap. Okay, he is pretty cheap, but probably not. Where do I even put Horing? If you know the matchup, he is not incredibly cheap, I feel like. I think King is very cheap. I mean, Lydia just kind of sucks now. Geese is insanely cheap. Not cheap. I'll organize these after. Oh man, I hate Bob too. Not cheap at all. Pretty cheap. Brian is probably the least cheap character in the game. Yeah, these characters are way more cheaper than Nina, for sure. Lily is not that cheap. You might think she's cheap. She's not. Her mix-up kind of sucks. She kind of thrives off just sidestepping. Not cheap. Pretty damn cheap. That flash. Okay. My wrist is starting to break. Talk about Ganryu. This character just has cheap damage, not really too cheap like neutral. His neutral is pretty hard to understand, I would say. Forgot about Leroy. I think Miguel is actually hella cheap. I think B is fair though. Okay. So a newly added S tier cheap ass character is Julia. Her party crasher. Why is that 12 frames? She do it perfectly. Works in a way that you don't really want to press against her. Is she going to finish the last hit of the string? Very string based, very annoying. The full crouch mix is just super long range. Safe mid options from full crouch. Cheap mids. The wall bounce that she has, very good. Not safe, but yeah. And she also flies to the air and just like takes away your whole entire life. The running one, I think it is. Yeah, pretty cheap, pretty cheap. Oh, I didn't talk about Alyssa. Oh, right. I mean, her poking just kind of works for itself. You know, you could play like a very boring Alyssa. I feel like, and the chainsaws are just like nobody knows how to counter them, and they're actually super bad. No, not super bad, but like super bad to deal with. I hate the chainsaw. Her gameplay is just kind of stale as well. I hate playing against like stale characters. Anyways, pretty cheap. Ganryu, down forward too. Great poking. The low is insane. I shouldn't say great poking because of his jab, but that all you really need is 2 moves. I feel like that is pretty cheap. Also, it can go into stance, which you are invincible for some reason. You have a power crush, so you can scoop people up and do too much damage. His rage drive doesn't make sense. It's too much damage on him. Too much annoying pressure, I should say. Yeah. Yeah. He might have to go up, but yeah, pretty damn annoying. Pretty damn annoying. You can play him with 2 buttons, literally, with his low poke and his down forward too. Josie has a safe low poke, pretty cheap, pretty annoying to deal with. You have to low parry, and especially if you're not playing in a high level, it is hard to notice when they're doing it. Low parry, and then let's say you don't have a good low parry into a block, then you get hop kicked, and she is quite annoying. The down forward too is absurd. Great like pokes from strings. Pretty cheap. I don't really understand the character, how she goes into stances and then she does like the high elbow. She always like counter hits me with that. You just got to play very, very patient against this character, which is annoying because you're always just sitting there eating a string, and you're just like, dude, what the fuck? Maybe she'll be replaced by Bruce in Tekken 8. I feel like that would be quite interesting. Horang. A lot of people say he is like super cheap. I talked to my brother about it. He's not as cheap as people think once you know the matchup. If you get down 3 forward, or whatever the input is, don't press. You'll get counter hit. If you block it, don't press, you'll get counter hit. Just frame skyrocket. It being safe is pretty damn cheap, but I actually don't think Horang's that cheap. Once you understand the matchup, you can kind of sit there and block, and you can sidestep at certain moments, and he really doesn't have the greatest options, I feel like. Backlash is quite annoying. Just frame skyrocket is quite annoying. Down 3-2 is quite annoying. His sweep, I really don't like that he has a sweep, but not incredibly cheap. And as full crouch mix up, it's basically like a coin flip. Super long range on that low. Not too cheap though. Her poking kind of is bad, but she really just tries to gamble with her life and just tries to mix you up with her full crouch mix up. And she gets a full combo from it. So it's literally, are you going to win the round? I don't know. Take a fucking coin flip, right? Geese has the cheapest mids in the game, I feel like. So a lot of people say Hachi has the best mids, but this character right here in his mids, back 3-2 is crazy. I played this character for I think a couple of weeks, and it was when it was pretty overpowered. And his mids are way better than Heihachi's, I will tell you that. Especially when, let's say, if someone even getting close to you, you're up a back 3-2, and you could hit them, could not. Standing 2, like if you sidestep into a standing 2, pretty damn cheap. Down 4, cheap. Sidestep 3, super plus. The cheese has gone down though, for sure. But still the best mids in the game. Still absolutely the best mids in the game. The best lows in the game, right here. I said that Fang has very good lows, but this character is just ridiculous with the lows. So, just like this character right beside him, he has like a down 3-4 type thing that goes into a stance, right? And he just has so many options all of the time. Basically, you can't sidestep him, so just take a guess. His mix-up is pretty damn cheap, and I would absolutely say worse than this character. He needs to be high somewhere because of his lows are just that ridiculous. Has a counter hit, launching low, that's a -12. He has an orbital. Just overall, the lows are just so absurd. His hell sweep tracking, I do not like that at all, and it's going to track in Tekken 8 as well, looking at the video. Yeah, he remains to be cheap as hell, and his lows are just from a different game, I feel like. Insane. Bob also has cheap poking. I feel like I'm never plus against him because he'll always just rip a power crush, right? And even playing against Brian, I saw that I was playing against Incognito, which is like one of the best Brians on the East Coast. He was playing Bob, and he kept on power crushing the shit out of me, and I was like, okay. So when I'm plus, I'm just going to jab him. You can't jab Bob out of the power crush, so I think his power crush makes him that much more cheaper. It is very, very minus on block though. I'm just saying that, oh well, he's doing this one thing, I'm gonna counter it, and then it doesn't do shit. Cheap ass low, that hell sweep. His if he's close to you, then his mid pokes are just ridiculous. The low poke is alright. Down forward 2, that being safe is pretty good. Pretty cheap character. Yoshi, Flash. You can't pressure this character. I feel like a lot of people are pressing in Tekken 7, right? So a lot of people are going to press into you when you're playing Yoshi, and they're going to eat the flash. And his wall pressure is also cheap as hell. Always being able to flip them over. Just when he's at the wall, he flips you over, and then he can either do the unblockable or he can do the flip you over again. Very good character, honestly. Yeah. Just his wall pressure is just like Brian's. You tech roll, you might eat a taunt. You know. Panda. I don't know why I put him over here. I feel like if you don't know the matchup, then he's pretty cheap. Nah, he's not too cheap. Eddie, if you don't know the matchup, then he is bonkers. He's always pressing, I feel like. He's always plus and you just get counter hit. But since I know the matchup very well, there's a lot of good Eddies around me. I feel like he is not too cheap. That's why I put him in B. But if you're like a lower level Tekken player, then this character is a nightmare. Great wave punishment. Insane backdash. Sidestep 3+4 is insane. Great keep out. You don't really want to approach this character almost ever. Yeah. Yeah, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. I don't like the mid string, but he's really not that bad. Lily isn't that bad either, because when it comes to waifu like characters, I would say that she's the least cheap because she needs her movement, you know, the character movement. I would recommend that you just sidestep when she's like, you know, when she does like the ballerina flip at you, just sidestep. You won't get I don't think you will get a punish, but you will, you know, have a turn where you can mix her up. And let's say that she is pressing, you'll just counter hit her out of that like backflip. Her mix-up is kind of cheap when she is back-turned, but she's really not that bad. Has to use movement to be good. Forward 3, absurd frames on that, but that's fine. Not too bad. Not too bad. I don't think Lars should be over here. I would say he is so easy that it's cheap. You know, like, I don't know. A lot of it reminds me of like Josie when he's just the kind of like, he's pressuring you through doing like either like a string. I shouldn't say string, more of like a move into the stance, into like another like move, like a mid launcher or like a low. But kind of thrives off whiff punishing, like his family, like Mishima's. Not very cheap. Noctis isn't that cheap. He has great poking, great moves. I feel like that's safe. The safe like sword attack is very annoying, but if you just hold back and you just react, then you're just kind of chilling, right? A lot of strings that would absolutely make him work in like lower level of play. Down forward 2 has insane range. I am at 40 minutes, okay. Really not that cheap. Really not that cheap. I think King's cheap just because of lower level of play. They won't understand how to break his grabs. There is especially chain grabs, right? When you have like a high level king and he really knows how to make you not duck, then and you get like King's Bridge or like Rolling Death Cradle, then you're just like, dude, what the hell? He is pretty damn cheap. He's pretty damn cheap. But not as cheap as these guys, so Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. His poking is actually mad good. Mad good, mad good. His jabs are hella cheap. I think I played him for like 200 wins, right? And I got him to, I think it was Tekken King or the one above that. Yeah, pretty damn cheap if you know how to mix up your timings with your throws and your mids. Pretty great character, honestly. The mix-up fanatic. Now, I think it's cheap because he can wave dash in your face and you can get hell sweep, but his options aren't very good anymore, right? You do kind of have to take a guess because he can always realign with a wave dash and still hell sweep you, or do like an electric that'll track. But his game plan becomes pretty tough in high level when they start not sidestepping, but start blocking your mix. You know, if they're really good at reading you, then this character becomes very hard. Especially with the up forward nerfs I got. He for me is a true Tekken god, and he is quite a hard character to play because of his game plan. How do I mix this guy up? When are they ducking? And you might think hell sweeps are cheap, or maybe you think I think he's just he's just fucking bad now. He just has no mids. 442 sucks. Like 20 damage. Who cares? I really don't think he's cheap. He used to be way cheaper with that wall combo. I can talk about Akuma next. I think it is fair to put him in B tier because not a lot of people can do his FADC cancel, which is like down 3 Hadouken into the forward dash into back 1. It is very hard to do. Is it cheap? Why does it track? I don't know. It is pretty damn cheap. But you have to work pretty damn hard with the character to make him work, I feel like. And you have to be smart on how you use your meter. I don't think he's very cheap. If you know the matchup, you are going to get down forward. His poking is kind of bad. His mix is really all he has. I really don't think he's that bad. A lot of people are going to disagree, but that's fine. I'm at 43 minutes. Okay. Law 3 plus 4. Standing 4. Thank God it's going to be removed. His down forward 2 is mad good. He has a lot of oppressive mids. His lows are kind of but you can always cancel his lows. I feel like it always leaves him crouching. So when you do while standing 4, you can always cancel into DSS, which gives him infinite options. His down forward 2 is pretty damn cheap, and his standing 4 being 11 frames is pretty cheap, but he's fine. I really like his character design. Just to make it look better, I will put her right here. I think a lot of people don't know how to deal with her string cheese. You know, down forward 1, 2, I think it is, the mid-high. And you can keep on doing the jabs, or you can cancel that, you can do a sidestep. There's a lot to this character, I feel like. And a lot of people do not know how to counter her. A lot of great Nina players as well near me. I don't find her too cheap. I think her mid launchers that are like safe, they go into a mid and then to like a high. Those don't really make sense to me. You don't really want to duck her. You just want to react to what she's doing. But not a super like that's super over the top, I feel like. Claudia. He plays Tekken 7 very well. I played him for a bit. and he was ridiculously strong. And his forward two, right, his raw running two, you can always do a hop kick, right? Always hop kick after it. They can't step, they can't really do shit, and it's just how you mix up your timing, your wall running three, your wall running two, when you're doing you're ripping your hop kicks. Poking is kind of okay. He has back three, and you can always finish the string, which will counter hit launch you. His lows are okay. Back one, pretty damn cheap. Yeah, I think this is my highest percent win rate in the game right here, right? So since I played him, he does do a lot of fundamental type stuff really good. But he's so cheap though. The range on his hop kick. Now that I've played him and I understand the character, I feel like he needs to be quite a bit higher. I think he's cheaper than Nina. Absolutely. Absolutely. Eliza, spam dive kick. I don't really understand the character. I feel like I really shouldn't be talking about her. You can't sidestep or mix up at all. She always slides at you or does like the forward 2 looking move. I'm just gonna choose not to talk about this character because I really don't play against this character at all, I feel like. The stance is just ridiculous. I mean, okay. Savage 2, one of the most broken moves I feel like in the game. I know you have to go into stance and it has like different properties, but Savage 2 is insane. Savage 2 is insane. And the mix-up utility he has from that, he basically has like a Brian Hatchet, which is insanely plus, and yeah, I think he's cheap as hell. Counter hit, utility, has a lot of plus frame moves. He has great lows. He has the super uppercut from stance, and then he has Savage too. And I feel like that's all you really need in a character. You know, he's not overcomplicated, but those moves just kind of do everything for him. I think Lars is so annoying to play against because he always relies on doing a move, going into stance, and then he mixes you up from there. And I feel like it's hard to... You can't really pick the right option always, right? So you're always going to have to like eat like a low or a mid. Just don't duck this character. His lows aren't very good. Side step right kind of kills the character. Just watch out when he's doing the house sweep. Not too overcomplicated. Okay. This character makes a lot of sense. High level Lees. Can I change the song real quick? High level Lees will always spam back 4. Spam back 4. It doesn't matter where they are. You cannot punish it with an electric. And let's say if you're close enough, you can do like jab, but he can always go into hitman, right? So his options from just ripping back 4 isn't really that bad. Machine gun kicks is spamable as hell. But a very difficult character to open people up, right? So I'm going to compare him to Brian. When you are playing against a turtle as Lee, right? You're playing as Lee. You're going against someone super turtly. How do you open them up? You know, you don't have shit like Steve's unblockable high thing that he has going on. It's not too good. Yeah, not too over the top. As long as you don't press a lot of buttons, then he won't counter you. And his game plan will be much harder that way. Oh yeah, and comparing him to Brian. Brian has Hatchet. Brian has back 1. a lot of plus frames. You'll be straight up in his face, and if he presses, then you can either press 4 and it will counter hit him. But you can always rip hatchets as Brian. You can always make them feel pressured, I feel like. But Lee does not do the same. 4-4 neutral 4 is a very cheap move, by the way. Crushes a lot of mids and eyes. Launches, I'm pretty sure. Mix up. People will find that very annoying, I feel like. But he is not too bad anymore. Especially with the new season, the removal of back 2-1 and up forward 4. He's not very good anymore, and it's kind of sad. Not very cheap moves. Up forward 4 used to be insane, and back 2-1 used to be like the icing on top. Like, this character would literally be like over here with the cheapness. His game plan would not be cheap, because you still have to mix them up and you have to make them crouch somehow, you know. But yeah, pretty sure that explains everything. Not very cheap anymore. No matter how plus you are, it doesn't matter. He's gonna back one. He's gonna back one, and you have to figure out how to deal with it and keep your frame traps airtight. But I have played C before, and I've noticed that he is not a very cheap character. He has a lot of stance mix-ups, but they're not very good because you don't have a lot of lows. And if they aren't present, then you could absolutely get blasted, you know? A very difficult character, and game plan is very, I would say, also very, very difficult to understand. Down forward 2, extremely technical stuff on this character. Not cheap. Not cheap. Political Storm is annoying on Lydia. But since she basically has no hell sweep now, her lows aren't that bad. Her stance mix-ups are pretty annoying, but it's really nothing compared to what she was. You know, just like this character. Armor King is not cheap. Okay, you can always. Alright, I'm gonna talk about Jin. You can always rip standing 4, forward 4. It's just very good tools to have in the bag, you know. Having electric is always pretty damn good, but you gotta know how to place these electrics. And I feel like all these Mishimas being over here, looks just electrics are pretty cheap. Yeah, it doesn't really have string cheese. None of these characters really do. You always have to rely on fundamentals as Mishimas, I feel like. Yeah, him being there makes a little more sense. I feel like it is definitely harder to play Jin because he has like such a bigger tool bag. Not very cheap though. House sweep is very slow. Paul's down forward 2 is cheap, but a very hard character. When it comes to like being in neutral, Paul very much struggles. Right, he has to use Crow Circle forward 3, which kicks their shins. Standing 4 is pretty good, but he has nothing that like really stands out as being hella cheap. Right? You could say Death Fist is cheap. It's not cheap. Just sidestep that shit. Not cheap, yeah. Yeah. One of the best spoken characters, I feel like. But she has been very, very much nerfed. Back 2 sucks now, her homing mid. Her lows are very good though. Like Kazu's down back 4. But a very fundamental character. Okay. Jack. Jack's cheap as hell. So very, he relies on fundamentals and backdashing and doing all that good stuff. You know, down forward doing and whiff punishing. But I hate Jackhammer. I hate this move. And he's definitely not up here. You know, with all these characters. But forward 1 is insane. Super hard to sidestep. I feel like almost cheap poking. Down forward 2 being minus 14. He's okay. He's okay. Oh. I have no idea where to put Negan. Bye, Noctis. The power crush is pretty cheese, pretty annoying for sure. Down forward 2. Insane move, extremely simple game plan. Pretty cheap poking with like the mids. Pretty cheap poking with the mids, and the lows aren't that bad either. With the weird property of doing that low kick and then they're all of a sudden like side turned and they have to do like a certain input to counter it. That looks a lot better. Okay. Steve, Paul, Kazumi. Kazuya has literally no cheese. No annoying moves either other than electric. Okay. So this character is basically just string heaven. I've always hated the design of Falcon Realm. 3+4 pretty much being gone. His standing 4-3, like his magic 4 being removed. He's not as bad, but his strings are still pretty absurd. His down forward 1 mix-ups, his fucking his lows are pretty bad, but you can get around it with how much strings he has. He has a billion strings, and they are all very much annoying. I'm at 57 minutes. Okay. Heihachi. Very fundamental character, just down forward 1. Standing 1, back 2 type of thing. Hell sweep isn't cheap. Down back 2 is reactable. Not good lows at all. Just a very fundamental character. Down forward 1, forward 2. Forward 2 is pretty cheap. With how you can always get a very high like launch on them. You get a great combo from it, but you just don't duck Heihachi. You don't duck Heihachi, you don't get hit by it. Very fundamental character as well. Armor King relies on his very long limbs to poke them to death. Right, down 4, like just shredding people's legs, and his down forward 1 being +8, so you can get pressure. I guess his grabs are, you can say, are pretty cheese, but it's very hard to make high level players to stop. Like if they duck your throws, how do you make them stop ducking? Well, his mids are kind of buns, right? He doesn't really have the best mids. Like forward 4, neutral 2 is also pretty damn cheap. But if you're not grabbing, then he is not a cheap character. Down forward 2. Okay. I think the oversimplification of Armor King is why I'm going to put him up here. He's still a very fundamental character, but down forward 2 being homing, right? You can always do a down forward 1, right, which is +8, and then you do down forward 2, and if they're pressing, they get counter hit. And they can't sidestep it, so down forward 2 is just way too OD. He's not cheap. Dragunov, not cheap. Best sidestep in the game, very fundamental character, just always trying to sidestep. I feel like he's always plus, but it doesn't really matter. His lows are ass. His homing is bad. Very easy to counter, I feel like. Just break his grabs. He won't have anything. This character ain't cheap at all. So I have... Where's Kazuya? So these two characters right here. It took me 800 wins to get him to Tekken God Prime. I'm at 1500 wins with this character, so I'm about like 3000 matches. I would say I win just a little more, over 50%, whatever. I still feel like I can never get the TGP with Brian because he is that difficult. I would say that 3+4 is pretty cheap and Hatchet is pretty cheap, but his game plan makes it that much harder. You know, how do you counter hit this person when they're not pressing? How do you make them feel pressured so they do press? Orbital is pretty cheap, but it's not. Yeah, insanely hard character to use. Not cheap at all. I like to say Orbital is cheap because you can spam it if you're doing just like the upward one, up 4. Yeah, I'll stick to that. Gigas has no tools, so yeah. His mid suck. His lows are like, he has like a Marduk low, but it's not very good. His counter hits suck. His launchers suck. They're super minus, like minus 18. Break 1+2, you'll be like 90% of the Gigases. And yeah, he's just not a good character. Not very cheap at all. I guess down 1. That's nothing. So Shaheen is a very fundamental based character, and I feel like he's also very simple, right? He'll just go for a low poke into stance, or he'll go like he has like a standing forward that you can duck. Yeah, not a very good character. Actually, well, he is a very good character, but he isn't a cheap character. Very fundamental based. Kuma and Panda. I put them down here because I don't understand these characters, right? I don't play against them very often, and I guess they do kind of have a form of cheese where it's like the jab string. I don't think you can hit confirm it. It's minus 14. Basically having a Hihachi forward forward 2. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about these characters. And Kazuya being last. Basically no strings, no cheese, just the 50-50 and electric. It's literally the whole character. Electric 50-50. Hell Sweep gives you that juicy knockdown. But mixing people up is... Okay. Don't... Mixing people up with Kazuya is not very cheap, because they can always stay on the ground, they can always change up, and you have to adapt and change your timings on your mix-ups. And I feel like that's what makes Kazuya very interesting. Like I said, no strings. Down back 4 is pretty amazing. Insanely long range, make them respect you. But not a lot of cheese at all. Not very cheap. I think that'll do it. Just gonna take a second look. I really don't know who is the top here. They're very close, but Kuni. I'll keep it like that. Zhao Yu, yeah, Lei, yeah. Alyssa, Julia, Fang, Leo, Leroy, Marduk. Anna. Yeah, she could stay there. That's fine. That's fine. Yoshi. Claudio, Nina, Eddie. Claudio, Nina, Eddie. Lily. King, Noctis. Kuma. I'm going to move Miguel to right next to King because of how cheap that Savage 2 is and that stance mix-up. Just it being super effective and not really taking much risk. Forward 1, fuck you Jack. Jin, Steve, Lydia, Paul, Kazumi, Armor King. I feel like, okay, Shaheen should be higher because of his slide mix-up, and he can always rip a hop kick if they're crouching. But still a very simple character. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. It has been an hour and 7 minutes talking about every single character in the game and how cheap they are. And I think that Kuni is absolutely the king to being cheap as hell. And then Asuka second, and Xiao Yu third. Yeah, I like how it looks. Thanks for watching.